What happens when a billion-dollar CEO is told she doesn't belong in the very seat she paid for? The cabin glows with the quiet arrogance of wealth. Polished chrome reflects the muted golden light. Leather seats arranged like thrones stretch across the front of Liberty Air Flight 327. The kind of space where silence is not just comfort, but currency. Flight attendants glide between rows, rehearsing their smiles. Champagne flutes sparkle like glass trophies, and menus embossed with gold lettering whisper one thing only: exclusivity. And there she sits, Dr. Selina Carter, a black woman who has already lived 3 lives of battles. Raised in Detroit by a school teacher and a postal worker, she fought her way to Harvard, conquered Wall Street, and now, as the CEO of Aurelia Capital, she controls billions. But tonight, her power is condensed into a single square of leather. Seat 2A. She is not just a passenger. She is holding the future of Liberty Air in her hands, a $900 million infusion that could rescue the airline from collapse. For her, the flight is supposed to be a moment of quiet before the storm, a single hour to review contracts that will reshape an industry. But as she settles back, posture straight, tablet in hand, something else hangs in the air. An unspoken tension. Eyes flicker in her direction, a silence too heavy to be comfort, too sharp to be coincidence. Because to some in this cabin, Selina Carter does not look like she belongs here. Do you believe one seat can change the future of an entire industry? Comment below with yes if you do, or no if you don't think so. Detroit winters carve resilience into the skin. Selina Carter learned that before she could spell the word resilience. Her father, a postal worker, trudged through sleet and snow with cracked hands, yet came home each night with a steady smile. Her mother, a schoolteacher, carried chalk-stained fingers and a voice hoarse from speaking dignity into classrooms that rarely respected her. Those were Selina's first lessons. That dignity isn't given. It is earned, protected, and sharpened through struggle. At 16, she studied by candlelight when the power company shut off electricity. At 19, she crossed the gates of Harvard, dragging Detroit with her into lecture halls where professors introduced her as our diversity admit before daring to praise her brilliance. She learned early how the world measured her, by race, by gender, by the unspoken question, do you belong here? On Wall Street, her calculations were dismissed until repeated by a man. She built her first startup only to hear investors ask, but who is the real CEO? Each insult, each doubt became a brick in the foundation of her empire. She did not crumble, she compounded. Now at 42, she commands Aurelia Capital, a financial powerhouse with billions under management. Reporters call her the quiet storm of Wall Street. Colleagues whisper that her stare alone can reroute markets. But beneath the tailored navy suit and measured composure lives the same girl from Detroit, who promised her parents she would carry their sacrifices into every room, every deal, every battle. And tonight, on Liberty Air Flight 327, with Seat 2A beneath her, she is not just a passenger. She is the future written in human form. The flicker of her tablet screen glows like a second heartbeat. Charts, projections, bullet points, every number carved into place after months of relentless negotiation. $900 million. Not just capital, but oxygen for Liberty Air, a company staggering under debt, bleeding reputation, and desperate for survival. Selina Carter is not here for luxury. She is here as the deciding hand on whether Liberty Air will fly into a new century or collapse under its own arrogance. In 12 hours, she is scheduled to walk into a Manhattan boardroom where the airline's directors will await her signature. Her decision will refinance debt, replace aging aircraft, and reassure investors who have already begun whispering about bankruptcy. $900 million. To Liberty Air, it means survival. To Selina, it means leverage. And leverage has always been her quiet weapon. She knows that when she signs, headlines will roar. Aurelia Capital rescues legacy airline. Shareholders will cheer. Competitors will envy. Analysts will dissect every comma of the contract. But for Selina, the true weight is not in the press releases. It is in the silent promise to her parents, to the girl who studied by candlelight, to her daughter Jordan, who deserves a world where power doesn't ask permission from prejudice. Tonight, as the engines hum and the champagne flows around her, Selina Carter leans back in Seat 2A, one hand resting on her folio. She does not know yet that within minutes this seat will become the stage of a battle larger than any boardroom. The hush of first class is broken, not by turbulence, not by laughter, but by a shadow falling across Seat 2A. Ma'am, may I see your boarding pass? The voice belongs to Heather Collins, a flight attendant whose smile is perfectly rehearsed, yet her tone carries a sharpness that no smile can soften. Selina looks up, eyes steady, calm as glass. She has flown first class hundreds of times. She has never once been asked to reprove she belongs here. Until now. She offers the ticket without hesitation. Heather studies it longer than necessary. Her brow furrows at the name. Dr. Selina Carter. The pause stretches, heavy, almost accusatory. Selina notices the businessman across the aisle, khaki slacks, silver cufflinks, sipping champagne without interruption. No one asks him for proof. He fits the image they expect. Heather finally returns the ticket. "Thank you, Dr. Carter," she says, the professional smile still pinned to her lips. But no welcome drink follows, no warmth in her eyes. The message is unspoken but unmistakable. Do you belong here? Selina's lips press together. She recognizes the choreography, the suspicion, the hesitation, the silent question that has followed her from lecture halls to boardrooms. Only the stage changes. The pattern never does. Around her, passengers glance up briefly, some curious, some quickly averting their eyes. The silence of privilege fills the cabin again, but it is brittle now, vibrating with tension. Selina turns back to her tablet, yet her senses sharpen. Something in the air has shifted. She knows this is only the beginning. In the galley, away from the polished silence of first class, Charles Davenport leans against the counter. Senior Vice President of Operations, son of aviation royalty. His family name hangs in the corridors of Liberty Air like a gilded portrait. To him, the airline is inheritance, not business. His phone buzzes. A message glows across the screen. "Running late, need my regular seat 2A." The sender, Tom Hensley. Wealthy businessman, platinum status flyer, accustomed to the same chair on every flight as if it were reserved by birthright. Davenport's jaw tightens. 2A is already occupied by Selina Carter, a black woman with the power to hold Liberty Air's survival in her hands. To Davenport, she is more than an inconvenience. She is a disruption, an intruder into a lineage of power he believes should remain untouched. He had fought the $900 million deal in private meetings, whispering doubts into directors' ears. He lost. And now here she is, seated where his world expects men like Tom Hensley. He lowers his voice, speaking to Heather Collins, the flight attendant. "Make sure she's verified. If you need to reclaim 2A, do it. We'll accommodate her elsewhere." Heather hesitates, but Davenport's gaze is steel, orders disguised as courtesy. She nods. Back in the cabin, families shuffle down the aisle, children whispering, passengers stealing subtle glances at the lone black woman in the premier row. Selina Carter feels their eyes, feels Davenport's watchful presence from the galley. It is not paranoia. It is pattern recognition. And the pattern is about to play out again. The air in first class thickens. What should be the quiet hum of privilege now crackles with tension. Heather Collins returns, her voice pitched just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Dr. Carter, there seems to be an issue with your seat assignment." Selina lifts her eyes slowly, calm but unyielding. "There is no issue. Seat 2A was purchased weeks ago." Heather's smile falters. "We're showing a conflict in the system. I'll need to confirm with my supervisor." Her words are polite, but the edge beneath them is sharp. Moments later, the supervisor arrives, 2 security officers in tow. Their uniforms are casual, but their hands rest near their belts. The cabin grows hushed, the way a theater does before tragedy unfolds. A child whispers to her mother. A businessman clears his throat and stares at his phone, pretending not to listen. "Dr. Carter," the supervisor begins, "we have a VIP passenger boarding who requires this seat. We'll need you to move to economy. You will, of course, be compensated." Selina blinks once. Steady. "I purchased this seat. Why is another passenger considered priority over me?" From the galley, Charles Davenport steps forward, oozing false politeness. "Ma'am, let's not make this unpleasant. You'll receive a voucher, and we'll upgrade you on a future flight." Then a booming voice slices through the cabin. Tom Hensley, red-faced, dragging an expensive briefcase, declares, "That's my seat. I always fly 2A." His eyes sweep over Selina with disdain, the implication heavy in the air. Some of us belong in first class. Phones rise, screens glow, passengers begin recording. The stage is set. The supervisor's voice sharpens, his eyes flicking toward the security officers. "Dr. Carter, if you do not comply, we will have you removed. This is now a security matter." The word Security hangs like a blade in the air. Passengers shift uncomfortably in their seats. They know what it means. Removal, restraints, arrest. The criminalization of a woman who simply sits where her ticket placed her. One officer's hand graces the grip of his taser. Not subtle, but deliberate. A signal. A warning. Selena Carter's pulse quickens, but her posture does not betray it. She knows the stakes. Resisting could mean headlines about interference with a crew member, a federal offense that could destroy her career. Complying would wound her dignity, but leave her standing to fight another way. Across the aisle, Tom Hensley adjusts his cufflinks, sneering. His words fall heavy. Because some of us belong in first class. The cabin reacts in silence, but the silence is broken by the hum of smartphones. Screens glow like fireflies in the dim cabin light. Passengers angle their cameras, some openly, some pretending to scroll while recording every second. Selena breathes deeply. She remembers her mother's voice. When they try to erase you, don't give them your voice. Give them your evidence. She rises slowly, regal, controlled. She places her leather suitcase gently on the floor beside seat 2A. Not an argument, not a plea. A statement carved in silence. This isn't over. You will remember this moment. Hensley smirks as he slides into the seat. Davenport straightens his tie, certain he has won. But the world is already watching. The hush in first class does not fade when Selena Carter steps into the aisle. It deepens, thick as fog. Every passenger feels it, the weight of injustice pressed into silence. Some lower their eyes, ashamed. Others lift their phones higher, capturing history in real time. She does not argue. She does not beg. Her leather heels click softly against the carpet, each step precise, deliberate, like a gavel striking wood. To the uninformed, it looks like compliance. To those who know better, it is strategy sharpened into ritual. A young black woman in business casual leans toward her companion, whispering, "This is 2025, and they're still doing this." Across the row, an older man mutters, "Shameful." But no one speaks loud enough to stop it. Silence, too, can be an accomplice. When Selena reaches the economy cabin, the atmosphere shifts. Heads turn, gasps ripple. Passengers recognize her face from headlines, from finance magazines. "Isn't that the CEO?" someone whispers. A teenager pulls out his phone and whispers to his mother, "That's her from the video." Selena sits in row 23. She places her folio neatly on her lap. Her hands fold together, still and regal. No meltdown, no scene, just silence, honed into a blade. Minutes later, the first clips hit social media. Black female CEO forced out of first class to make room for VIP. By the time the last passenger boards, the video has already crossed 500,000 views. Her quiet walk has become louder than any scream. If you believe silence can sometimes be the strongest protest, type "yes" in the comments. If you think shouting is the only way to fight back, type "no." The plane hasn't even left the runway when the internet takes flight. Clips of Selena Carter's removal cascade across TikTok, Facebook, and X. One caption reads, "Black CEO pushed from her rightful seat." Another, "Some of us belong, watch this." The hashtags spark like dry wood. #C2A, #FlyingWhileBlack, #Dignity in silence. Within minutes, views surge past 1 million. By the time the aircraft reaches cruising altitude, the whole world is watching. Passengers refresh their feeds in disbelief, whispering as they recognize the woman in row 23. LinkedIn posts call her calm, a masterclass in leadership. On Twitter, a senator writes, "If a black female CEO can be humiliated in first class, what happens to those without a platform?" It's retweeted 100,000 times before the seatbelt sign goes off. Selena sits still, eyes forward, but her mind drifts backward. She remembers being introduced at Harvard as "our diversity admit." She remembers her first Wall Street interview when a partner asked, "But who is the real CEO?" She remembers boardrooms where her words were ignored until repeated by a man. And she remembers her mother's tired voice, "Baby, you'll have to fight twice as hard for half the respect, but if you keep standing, the ground will shake beneath them." Her phone buzzes gently in her blazer pocket. A text from her daughter Jordan. "Mom, you're all over my feed. I'm proud of you. Don't let them win." Selena exhales, fingers tightening around her folio. She doesn't need to shout. She has evidence. And now, the evidence belongs to the world. Row 23 is no throne, but Selena Carter sits as though it were carved for a queen. The narrow armrests bite into her sides, the overhead bins rattle with carry-ons, and the hum of economy is restless and crowded. Yet Selina's composure transforms the space. She places her folio gently on her lap, folds her hands, and faces forward. No complaint, no anger, only silence honed to steel. Around her, passengers exchange looks. Some recognize her instantly. Whispers rise and fall like secret prayers. That's the CEO, isn't it? Why would they move her? A teenager across the aisle nudges his mother, phone glowing in his hand. Mom, it's her, the one from the video. He refreshes TikTok again and again, watching the clip multiply with new captions, new soundtracks, new outrage. He sees her face paired with music overlays, fiery commentary, hashtags burning across the screen. On Seat 2A has already passed 1 million views. Selina keeps her gaze steady, but inside her thoughts move faster than the aircraft itself. Every humiliation from the past has been private, a sting she carried alone. Tonight, the insult is public, and the public is watching. In the glow of countless smartphones, her silence becomes louder than any scream. To some, she looks like defeat. To others, she looks like a mirror of every injustice they have lived but could not record. The irony is sharp. In losing Seat 2A, Selina Carter has gained a stage larger than she ever imagined. By the time Flight 327 cuts through the night sky, the internet is already ablaze. Seat 2A trends #1 on TikTok. FlyingWhileBlack surges across X, and hashtag dignity in silence catches fire on Instagram Reels. What began as shaky footage in a cabin now rolls like thunder across continents. Influencers react live, their voices sharp with outrage. This isn't about a seat, it's about who is allowed to sit in power, one declares to 500,000 viewers. On LinkedIn, executives weigh in using the moment as a case study. A CEO forced to move. Imagine what happens to employees without titles. News anchors prepare segments before the plane even lands, their producers cutting the video into viral loops, comments flood in by the second. She handled that with more grace than I ever could. If a billionaire black woman can be humiliated like this, what chance do the rest of us have? Her silence is louder than his insult. Selina doesn't scroll. She doesn't need to. She feels the shift even from seat 23. The murmurs around her, the sideways glances, the faint glow of screens. Her humiliation is no longer hers alone. It belongs to the millions watching. For the first time, the battle is not private. Her silence has been weaponized by witnesses. And now, the hashtags have turned into banners, carrying her dignity across every timeline, every feed. She closes her eyes briefly, steadying her breath. Selina Carter did not choose to become a symbol tonight, but the world has chosen her anyway. The roar of engines outside fades beneath a louder sound inside Selina's mind. The echoes of every room that once told her she didn't belong. She is 19 again, stepping into a lecture hall at Harvard. The professor introduces her not as brilliant, not as scholar, but as our diversity admit. Heads turned, smirks flickered, and she carried that label like a chain through every exam. Yet, when grades were posted, her name sat at the top. The memory shifts. Now, Wall Street. Her first day as a young analyst. She sits in a glass conference room, presenting a flawless valuation. The partners nod, but when a white male colleague repeats her exact words, they applaud him instead. She learned then that brilliance in her voice carried less weight than mediocrity in theirs. Another flash, her first startup pitch. Investors lean back in their leather chairs, arms crossed. But who is the real CEO? One asks, scanning the room for a man who doesn't exist. She smiles tightly, hides the sting, and signs their checks anyway once her company turns profit without their backing. Each memory burns, but none consume her. They forge her. Back in row 23, Selina opens her eyes. The humiliation of tonight feels different, not because it hurts more, but because it is no longer private. This time, the world is watching. And in every trending hashtag, she hears not just her own story, but the collective story of those silenced before her. Her silence is not retreat. It is preparation. Amid the glow of strangers' phones, one notification matters most. Selina slips her hand into her blazer pocket, drawing out her own device. A single text lights the screen, soft as a whisper in the storm. Mom, you're all over my feed. I'm proud of you. Don't let them win. Jordan. Her daughter is only 12, yet wise enough to see what the world often misses. Jordan knows her mother's battles, even if only in fragments. The late nights, the sharp words Selina never repeats aloud, the steel mask she wears when she leaves the house. Children sense what parents hide. Selina reads the message twice, then a third time. A warmth spreads through her chest. steadying her pulse. For all the boardrooms she's conquered, for all the contracts and billions she commands, it is this simple message that anchors her now. Not power, not money, a daughter's pride. She imagines Jordan scrolling through endless feeds, watching her mother's silent walk, replayed with captions and commentary. She imagines the sting her daughter must feel, the question that might bloom in her young heart. If they can treat my mother this way, what chance do I have? Selena straightens her shoulders. This battle is no longer about contracts or leverage. It is about legacy, about showing her daughter and every daughter watching that dignity does not depend on permission. She tucks the phone away, lips curving into the faintest smile. They think they have diminished her. But Jordan's voice has made her infinite. Across Manhattan, while Selena Carter sits in row 23 at 30,000 feet, Liberty Air's headquarters is burning, not with fire, but with panic. In a glass tower overlooking the Hudson, directors huddle around a mahogany table. The stock ticker glows red across the wall. Liberty Air, 12% and dropping. Each refresh brings fresh humiliation. Analysts on CNBC talk of a brand in freefall. Social media doesn't stop replaying Tom Hensley's sneer, "Some of us belong in first class." The director of finance slams a folder shut. "We can't absorb another hit. We were already leveraged to the ceiling. Now, investors are pulling out by the hour." A PR executive scrolls furiously through her phone. It's everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, TikTok, even LinkedIn. Executives are calling this a case study in systemic bias. We can't contain it. Charles Davenport sits near the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw tight. "This is a media storm. It will blow over. We've weathered worse." His words drip with arrogance, but his eyes betray flickers of unease. Another director snaps. "This isn't just optics, Charles. The woman you humiliated is the one holding our $900 million lifeline. If she pulls out, Liberty Air collapses." Silence follows, heavy and choking. Outside, the skyline gleams with indifference, but inside the boardroom, every man and woman feels the weight of an empire crumbling under the pressure of one seat, one video, and one black woman's silence. And yet, Davenport still cannot see the storm for what it truly is. The boardroom feels like a sinking ship, papers scattered, phones buzzing with non-stop alerts. Yet Charles Davenport leans back in his leather chair as though the storm outside were just a drizzle. "She'll sign," he says, voice steady with misplaced confidence. $900 million isn't pocket change, even for Aurelia Capital. At the end of the day, she's a businesswoman. She'll take the deal. All this noise online, it'll die in a week. The PR executive slams her phone down. Noise? We're at the center of a global scandal. Hashtags are trending in 20 countries. Celebrities are weighing in. Senators are tweeting. The White House is monitoring this. This is not noise. This is crisis. Davenport smirks, his arrogance cutting sharper than any blade. "You're overreacting. She'll choose logic over pride. She has to." The director of finance shakes his head. "Charles, you don't understand her. This isn't just a contract. It's a statement. If she walks, we don't just lose money. We lose credibility. Investors won't forgive us. Neither will the public." Davenport dismisses him with a wave. The public has short memory. Headlines fade. But capital? Capital always speaks louder than outrage. A heavy silence follows, broken only by the distant hum of the stock ticker dropping lower, lower. For the first time, Davenport notices eyes around the table narrowing, no longer allies but skeptics. Arrogance is his armor, but tonight, arrogance is also the anchor pulling Liberty Air straight into the abyss. The boardroom is still mid-argument when a notification buzzes across every director's phone. The PR executive gasps first, her screen lighting her face pale. "God help us. It's out." On the Wall Street Journal's website, the headline blazes in bold. Aurelia Capital CEO Selena Carter withholds $900 million deal after discrimination incident on Liberty Air flight. The room freezes. For a long moment, no one breathes. The article details everything. Passengers' footage, Hensley's infamous line, Davenport's role in ordering the seat reclaimed. And worst of all, the confirmation. Selena is withholding her signature. Television screens across the trading floor downstairs flip instantly to breaking news. CNBC anchors speak with urgency. Sources confirm Dr. Selena Carter, whose fund was set to rescue Liberty Air, has pulled back. Without that infusion, bankruptcy looms. On social media, screenshots of the headline travel faster than light. Twitter threads dissect every detail. TikTok creators stitch the flight video with the breaking article. Captions is screaming, "She fought back the only way they understand." Money. In the boardroom, panic turns to chaos. Directors argue over statements, over damage control, over whether resignations will be demanded before the night is out. Someone mutters, "This could kill us by morning." Charles Davenport's face drains of color. His earlier arrogance dissolves into sweat as he scrolls through the article, his own name appearing in damning detail. For the first time, the air of aviation feels something unfamiliar: fear. Because Selina Carter's silence has now spoken and Wall Street is listening. The oak doors swing open and the storm they feared walks in. Dr. Selina Carter does not rush, does not stumble. She moves with the measured grace of someone who knows every eye belongs to her before she even speaks. Her navy suit is immaculate, her leather folio tucked under one arm. Silence spreads through the boardroom like spilled ink. Even the stock ticker seems to hesitate. Charles Davenport shifts uncomfortably, clearing his throat. "Dr. Carter, we didn't expect." Selina cuts him off with a glance. Not a word. Just a glance sharp enough to slice through his arrogance. She takes the empty seat at the head of the table. Their table, not hers. Yet tonight the chair bends to her authority. "You called this a glitch," she says, her voice calm but resonant, carrying the authority of someone who has nothing left to prove. What happened on Flight 327 was not a glitch. It was a culture that tells black women to step aside, to yield, to move. The directors shift in their chairs uneasy. No one dares interrupt. "I don't move for prejudice," Selina continues. "Not in classrooms, not in boardrooms, and certainly not in cabins that my capital is asked to rescue." Her eyes sweep the table, steady, unblinking. "If you think this deal is about money, you've already lost. This is about principle. Without change, there is no signature. Without accountability, there is no rescue." And in that moment, every director understands this is not negotiation, this is judgment. The boardroom holds its breath. The directors, the lawyers, the assistants in the corner, everyone waits for what Selina Carter will say next. She places her folio on the table, but she doesn't open it. Instead, she leans back, hands folded, voice low but unshakable. "You mistake me," she says. "You think I came here to frighten you with numbers, with contracts, with the collapse of your stock price." Her gaze locks on Davenport, who stiffens under the weight of her calm. "But I don't need to frighten you. I only need to stand." A pause. Heavy, intentional. She lets it stretch until silence itself feels like thunder. Then she finishes. "And the world does the rest." The words land with seismic force. Not shouted, not embellished, but carved in truth. Around the table, directors glance at one another, the reality sinking in. She doesn't have to lift a finger. The world outside, millions of voices, screens, hashtags, investors, voters, has already risen on her behalf. And indeed, within minutes, her words leak. A junior assistant in the room posts a clipped transcript on Twitter. By the time Selina leaves the building, the phrase is trending in every major city. "I only need to stand." On TikTok, creators overlay the video of her walking down the aisle of row 23 with the line. On Instagram, it's quoted beneath portraits of black women in boardrooms and classrooms. By dawn, it is no longer just her sentence. It is a slogan of resistance. Selina doesn't look back as she exits. She doesn't need to. The world is already carrying her voice farther than any microphone ever could. The morning sun rises over Manhattan, but for Liberty Air, it feels like midnight. Aurelia Capital issues a statement at 7:00 a.m. Sharp and clinical, yet devastating. In light of the events on Flight 327, Aurelia Capital will suspend its $900 million agreement with Liberty Air. No funds will be released until systemic reforms addressing discrimination and accountability are implemented. Dignity is not negotiable. The words ripple through Wall Street like shockwaves. By market open, Liberty Air's stock plummets another 18%. Analysts scramble on live television. Without Aurelia's capital, Liberty Air faces default within weeks. Investors flee. Competitors circle like vultures. Selina Carter doesn't gloat, she doesn't hold press conferences or flood social media, she simply lets the statement stand. It is enough. One line at the bottom seals their fate. "We invest in companies that invest in people." Inside Liberty Air's boardroom, chaos reigns. Davenport slams his fist on the table. "She can't do this. she'll sink us both. But the director of finance answers coldly, she already has the leverage. We need her. She doesn't need us. Meanwhile, hashtags surge again. #dignity is not negotiable. #stand with Selena. Protesters begin gathering outside Liberty Air's headquarters, holding cardboard signs scrawled with her legendary line, I only need to stand. For Selena, the decisive blow is not money withheld. It is the principle enforced. She has turned capital into conscience, a currency more powerful than dollars, credibility. And Liberty Air, once arrogant in the skies, now struggles to breathe on the ground. By midweek, the scandal has escaped the confines of Wall Street. It now echoes beneath the marble dome of Capitol Hill. Congressional hearings are announced with lightning speed. Senators on both sides of the aisle demand answers. How does a national carrier treat the very woman investing in its survival with such blatant bias? Clips of Selena's removal from Seat 2A play on jumbo screens in committee rooms, lawmakers shaking their heads as if watching a slow-motion disaster. At the White House press briefing, the press secretary steps to the podium. Flashes pop. Reporters lean forward. The president believes no American, especially not a black woman leading at the highest levels, should face discrimination in public or private spaces. We are in communication with federal aviation regulators to ensure accountability. Cable news runs it non-stop. Headlines scream, Seat 2A scandal reaches Washington. Protesters rally outside Liberty Air offices from New York to Los Angeles, waving signs, dignity is not negotiable. We all belong in 2A. For Liberty Air, the consequences are devastating. Federal Aviation Administration officials quietly begin audits. Civil rights groups file lawsuits. Advertisers pull partnerships. Each hour compounds the collapse. And yet Selena Carter remains silent in public. No press tours, no interviews. She knows she doesn't need to speak. The institutions of government, society, and markets are now speaking for her. What began as a single act of humiliation in a cabin at 30,000 feet has become a national reckoning. The scandal no longer belongs to Liberty Air, it belongs to the people. Across the country, murals bloom overnight on brick walls and subway stations. In Harlem, an artist paints Selena Carter's profile in regal shades of indigo and gold, the words I only need to stand sweeping across the canvas like scripture. In Oakland, a group of high school students stencil C2A on their campus steps, turning the humiliation of one woman into a banner of defiance for all. Protests swell outside Liberty Air terminals. Passengers hold up boarding passes crossed out with black marker, chanting, Dignity is not negotiable. Security guards watch nervously as crowds grow larger by the day. At LAX, travelers delay their flights to join in, waving signs that read, We all belong in 2A. Corporate America feels the tremor. Tech giants rush to release statements condemning discrimination. Retail brands launch diversity pledges overnight. Banks, airlines, hotels all scramble to avoid becoming the next Liberty Air. Internal memos leak, showing CEOs warning their teams, audit every policy, fix it now. And in living rooms across America, ordinary people sit with their phones glowing, nodding as they watch the video again. Parents tell their daughters, that woman is why you never shrink yourself. Young professionals repost the clip with captions like, she carried all of us in that silence. Selena's quiet walk down an airplane aisle has become a march echoing across the nation. Do you believe one black woman's stand can spark systemic change? Tap like if you do, and share this story so more people know. Charles Davenport has built his career on intimidation, on whispered deals, on sealed doors, on making problems disappear. But now, the problem has a name, a face, and a hashtag he cannot erase. Selena Carter. Cornered, he does what powerful men have done for generations. He tries to destroy her reputation. Late at night, in a quiet office, thick with cigar smoke, Davenport drafts an anonymous leak to the press. Allegations appear in tabloids. Did Selena Carter inflate her net worth? Whispers of misconduct at Aurelia Capital. Grainy photos of her entering hotels for conferences are framed to look suspicious. He even feeds a fabricated rumor to Wall Street blogs. Sources question Aurelia's liquidity. For a moment, he believes the tactic might stick. But this is not 1995, nor even 2005. In 2025, truth has a witness. Millions of phones, millions of voices. Journalists tear through the claims within hours, uncovering Davenport's fingerprints on the smear. Hashtags flip instantly. Smear fail, desperate Davenport. On Twitter, one user writes, "He tried to bury her with lies. Instead, he buried himself with receipts." The post racks up 500,000 likes. Even Liberty Air's own employees revolt. Internal emails leak. Flight attendants, mechanics, junior analysts, all condemning Davenport's tactics. Protesters outside headquarters chant his name, not as respect, but as ridicule. By sunrise, he is no longer the heir to aviation royalty. He is the villain of a viral morality play dragged into the spotlight by the very silence he thought he could silence. And Selena? She never says a word. She doesn't need to. The world is speaking for her now. The boardroom is silent when Selena Carter returns. But this time, the silence is not dismissal. It is surrender. Directors sit stiff, shoulders tight, the red stock ticker outside reflecting in their eyes. They know the company teeters on the edge of collapse. And they know she is the only one who can pull it back. Selena lays her folio on the table. No theatrics, no fury, just clarity sharpened into steel. "My capital does not come without conditions," she begins. Her voice is steady, deliberate, each word cutting like glass. "This company will not rebuild itself on the same culture that destroyed it. If Liberty Air wants Aurelia's support, then Liberty Airs must reform." She raises one finger. First, Charles Davenport is finished. Effective immediately, he resigns. Not in 6 months, not with a golden parachute. Today. A second finger. Second, this board will appoint an independent oversight committee with full authority to investigate and dismantle discriminatory practices. A third finger. Third, systemic change. Mandatory equity training for every level of staff. Transparent reporting to regulators. A hotline for passengers and employees alike. And quarterly audits made public. Her eyes sweep the table, unblinking. This is not negotiation. These are terms. If you accept them, you may yet save Liberty Air. If you reject them, you collapse. And history will remember you as the airline that chose prejudice over survival. No one speaks. They don't have to. Every director in that room already knows. Selena Carter is not demanding favors. She is dictating the future. The board sits in stunned silence, pens frozen above notepads, directors avoiding one another's eyes. They expect Selena Carter to press her advantage with more demands, more threats. Instead, she leans back, voice lowering into something quieter, heavier, almost solemn. "You all think money is neutral," she says. "That capital is just numbers on a page, detached from morality, detached from the lives it touches. But let me be clear, capital is never neutral." Her words hang in the air like scripture. No one dares interrupt. Capital carries the values of those who control it. It can enable injustice or dismantle it. It can silence voices or it can amplify them. You built an empire assuming money would shield you from accountability. But money in the wrong hands doesn't shield, it corrodes. She opens her folio, but instead of contracts, she shows them a single page, headlines from across the globe. Protesters chanting Hagad 2A, murals of her face rising on walls, hashtags that refuse to die. "This is not about $900 million, Selena continues. "This is about the cost of dignity. And let me be absolutely clear. Dignity is not negotiable. I will not invest in institutions that treat it as optional." The room feels smaller now, as though her words have shifted its walls inward. For the first time, the directors understand. This woman is not saving Liberty Air. She is reshaping it. And outside those glass windows, the world is already reshaping with her. Months pass, but the echo of Seat 2A does not fade. Liberty Air survives, but not unchanged. Davenport is gone, escorted from headquarters without ceremony. The oversight committee begins dismantling the old culture brick by brick. Training sessions replace silence, audits replace excuses, and quarterly reports shine light where shadows once thrived. Investors return cautiously, not because Liberty Air promised profit, but because it promised a reform. Yet the legacy extends far beyond one airline. In Silicon Valley, tech firms announce new equity councils. On Wall Street, banks revise lending practices under public pressure. Retailers, hotels, even government contractors issue statements pledging transparency. CEOs whisper to their boards, "Audit everything, fix it now, or we become the next Liberty Air." And in neighborhoods across America, the story of Selena Carter is retold not as corporate drama, but as parable. Teachers reference her in classrooms. Mothers point to her photo and tell their daughters, "That's why you never step aside." Artists paint murals of her silent walk down the airplane aisle, her suitcase by her side, dignity intact. The numbers are undeniable. Discrimination complaints fall, equity audits rise, consumer trust climbs. But the deeper truth cannot be measured on charts. It lives in the collective recognition that one act of silence reshaped an entire system. Selena Carter never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her silence forced the world to listen. And in doing so, she proved a truth that now echoes through every industry. Black women are not passengers of change. They are its pilots. Type 1 in the comments if you stand with black women, or 2 if you believe every industry must change. And don't forget to share this story, because the world still needs to hear it.